because there's the possibility I stream to the wrong channel, and then it's shown either on the .NET Foundation or the JetBrains channel.
All of them are fine, right? All of them are fine.
Not sure. Oh. I will probably get my rights revoked then.
Oh, okay. What do you have in the background? Is that a Millennium Falcon from Lego?
There, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it. I can't really see it.
It is. I can even. Yeah, it's a bit. The camera is a bit low, but also the cable is a bit tight. So unfortunately, I can't show you around.
No.
But yeah, I also have the. I maybe can try to find some pictures on my phone, but I also have this this kit for the lightning.
Oh around. Wow! So that like the exhaust pipe will show you the white LED, like the bluish.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't know what it's called. What's the engine called? The light speed or something, or the impulse drive or something like that.
I will try to find the pictures and send it to the group we're in on Twitter. You should have it. Yeah, here I have it already.
That's pretty cool. So where are you based, Laurent?
East of France.
East of France.
Yeah, east of France. One city, a small village near Mulhouse, which is 100 kilometers south of Strasbourg, which I guess you know, which is the capital of Europe.
Capital of Europe, even.
Yeah, or it's where the parliament, the European Parliament is. But yeah.
Cool.
I always thought of Brussels as the capital of Europe.
Yeah, me too. That's why I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Okay. But in the east, so you work remotely all day long, or what?
No, in fact, I'm working in Zurich, Switzerland, since 2002, and I commute 2 hours one direction.
Wow!
But I work in the train for 1 hour and 10 on these 2 hours.
But you go back and forth every day?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I do some home office, and now it's like how much? April, May.
Yeah.
March that I'm at home.
So that saves you a lot of time, actually.
Oh yeah, and some sleep and some
2
back
hours
pains and yeah.
Matthias, you work from home all the time, or what?
No, often, yeah, but usually as developer advocate, you would travel also a lot. Well, not for the office, but for the conferences, and nowadays I think I'm often in the office, mainly for the reason that there's catering. At least until last week. So I have the office in the same city.
Which is where, if I may ask?
In Munich.
Munich.
I have I go by bicycle. I'm on the road for 15 minutes or something, I think.
Oh, dream. Dream for me.
Yeah, to be fair, I have a client which happens to be in the same city as I live, so I can also I take the bicycle like 2 or 3 times a week. The other 2 days I go by car. But yeah, I mean, no commute is even better. Although I have to admit, I do miss the liveliness of the office. You know, people around you, coffee corners, chatting about stuff that happened every day. Yeah. It is different from working from home, indeed.
Yeah. Well, we in our company we have introduced. I never used it so far, but from just hearing about it, it's like those random coffee breaks where it's like chat roulette for developers, I guess.
Yeah.
And they also, if I understood correctly, they also want to introduce that for teams, so that you can, I don't know, maybe ask a team about their things, what they're into currently, and so on. But yeah, my idea was also with this format here to have something similar, at least for the bit of missing conferences.
Yeah, absolutely. I really miss it. I mean, I've already made a joke on Twitter that I was planning to dial down the number of conferences a little bit in 2020, but this is not what I meant actually. Like last 2 years was quite busy, like 10, 12 conferences a year, which was a bit too much, I have to admit, because all the preparation work. And but I had some things planned this year, so that's a shame. Now I actually miss it. My last presentation was Romania, which was end of February, just before this whole thing started. I remember flying there, and that people were asking me anybody at the airport with mouthpieces or masks. Not that much, but then it quickly went AWOL. Yeah, because you're in lockdown, Laurent, right?
Yeah, we are.
Are you allowed to go? But do you have an apartment or a house?
I have a house, but you can go outside for 1 hour per day for sport. You can go for sure to shop some food and the mandatory thing, let's say, the essential thing. But you always have to have a paper with the hour, sign your name and QR code, and the police can check you. And but it's a bit strange because, for example, my daughter is at the university now; she's doing it from home also. But my son, that is at the college, he has to go. So, in fact, we are 3 at home, and 1 is going outside. So at the end, I'm not sure.
He has to go. He has to go to school. He has to go to college, or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same. The kids still go to school here, at least to the age. Yeah.
Oh, going to school, that's an interesting topic because you probably heard about the Vienna incident, right? And I watched the well, it's also in German, so I could follow the news. And seriously, at the press conference given by the Ministry of Interior, if I remember correctly, it was a bit shocking because they first the media talked about this, like, do parents actually have to send children tomorrow to school? And I was like, at that moment, I was already like, okay, if I was a parent of a child, it would be a no-brainer. I wouldn't send it, even if the government said you would have to. I mean, they don't allow me to disallow my child, right? And under these circumstances, I would have never done that. But then on the press conference, they actually also told that to people.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be an incident, right? Or
well, at first they weren't sure if there's still a second one at large or even multiple. But I mean, it would be no question for me to keep my child at home under these circumstances, and that was a bit. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, in the Netherlands, you probably have to bring the kids to school, otherwise you get a fine, like a €400 fine if you don't take your kids to school. But of course, you can always say they have a cold, and because if they have a cold, they're not supposed to go to school. Obviously, yeah.
Especially now.
Yeah, indeed. So I see you have your hat on, your pet, your Nuke pet. So are you representing Nuke now, or you're representing JetBrains, or neither?
In this chat?
Yeah.
Neither.
Okay.
The hat is just to because I don't like. I mean I was a lazy ass today. in terms of preparing myself on the outside, and this thing here is just so that my girlfriend can pass behind me.
She's in the same room.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife is upstairs, and my kids are actually both probably going to sleep by now. Yeah. It's 9 o'clock here.
Yeah, the left of an office, closed office. So.
That's nice. Yeah, I'm actually in the living room. You can see that. It's a bit messy because the kids left. We even have like a couple of new chairs, and the old ones are still standing there. I have to drop them tomorrow at the garbage disposal. People will pick it up. But at least it's quiet here. So Laurent, what do you do, if I may ask? Like, is it like, is there any agenda for this? Are we just going to be?
I was asking the same question to Matthias. What is the topic? It's an open discussion, so I really liked it.
Yeah, it's pretty open, but I found one interesting thing before, and that was it's an older discussion, and it's funny because I know at least Dennis would be interested in that. I read that Cake is preparing their 1.0 release, right?
Yeah, I just read that before.
Huh?
I also read that in Twitter just before, but it was saying 1.0, and below it was 0.38.5 or something like that. So I was
the 0 point releases, like what most folks consider like pre-releases without pre-release tech, let's say.
Okay.
Right. And I also remember there was a blog post from John Skeet about that, so that he stopped doing 0 point releases for the same fact, because it's supposed to be a pre-release, but it's not always marked as a pre-release because you don't have the pre-release tag, right? And I also remember Dennis asking me to make Nuke proper, I don't know, greater 0 release.
Yeah.
And to this day, I refuse to do so on the basis of just doing it for to make people happy. But yeah, and someone pointed out it's a psychological thing. People in a corporate environment, they don't trust 0 point releases.
I think that's true, actually. I mean, if I look at the versioning scheme that I use at my client, we use semantic versioning, obviously. And the thing is, we even have some kind of, I don't know if it's an official rule, but you're not supposed to put anything which is alpha or beta and rely on that in production. But I guess it's also about making a statement that if you call something 1.0, it means like it is not just it's stable, because it doesn't say anything, of course, but you're trying to give the message it is supposed to be stable, and I will support you. So I'll make sure that as of now, until 2.0 is released, I'll only add features or add bug fixes, but I will not break any contracts. So it's safe for you to start using it. And it's also safe for you to get the latest and greatest and always upgrade to, 1.7, 1.20, 1.20.3. So it's kind of, it is a psychological fact, because of course the number is just a number, and it doesn't tell us anything about like what's the quality of what you've been building, how well have you been testing it automatically. But still, I think a lot of people frown upon the fact. I mean, in this case, Nuke is a build process. So we're not actually shipping Nuke as a DLL to our clients, for instance. It's just used. It's the same with Webpack. But on the other hand, I can imagine that some people will hold off because they wonder like, but if I'm now going to rewrite my 1,000 line Cake script into Nuke and it's still 0 to 25, what else is going to happen? Do I have to, deal with breaking changes now for every release or every minor release that's being shipped?
Exactly what I started to do over the weekend.
Convert to Nuke.
Yeah. We went to Cake years ago from Team City Builds, and I wanted to have the build script version with the source code, which makes total sense, I think.
Yeah.
And so we started with Cake because it was quite easy to use and like the idea.
Yeah.
For sure, you learn of some of the drawbacks, and I discussed months ago. I discussed with Matthias about Nuke, and I didn't make the jump because we had so much on the pipe. But again, I worked over the weekend just to try it and to play, and I was quite amazed about what I could achieve quite fast. There is some glitches here and there about some parameters and things like that, things we need to discuss a bit, or maybe I didn't understood all the concept, I think. But it's super nice at the moment.
I love
to say it was quite straight to port, and
it's just still interesting. I mean, getting back to the release discussion. One of my colleagues, Khalid, he was doing some statistic works over the course of this week, and he found that the most common, or the how do you say, the highest number of release packages is with the version 1.0.0 and 1.0.1 and 1.1.0, right? And I guess there are quite a lot of packages out there that where this looks like a false promise. I mean, I'm not really sure, but I would assume there's plenty of packages which come with a proper 1-point release, but you have less moving forward, like no upcoming versions.
So they get abandoned or something, or it's like it depends, of course. I mean, if it's a well-designed little library, maybe it's feature complete after 1.1.
Yeah, sure.
But if I look at fluent assertions, I try to strictly follow SAM version. So whenever, not some version, but SAM version, which is a slight difference, but whenever there's a new feature and somebody asks for release, we just release it and we follow the numbering scheme. But yeah, that's an active project. It definitely, the most downloaded version is not something with 1 in it. But yeah, I think it's also when you I remember when we had this discussion on Slack, and when you made that same statement, I felt almost like initially like, so is this guy actually committed? Is it just like because this Matthias guy is stubborn, or is it because he's not really committed to the project? Like, is he not committed to the fact that when it becomes 1.0, he needs to start thinking about breaking changes? That could be the reason, by the way. Imagine that you're still, fleshing out the API and trying to find a good solution, a good direction.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't made up your mind and you want to keep your options open for introducing some significant breaking changes. Then I can imagine that you don't go for 1.0. But yeah,
you could also go to 1.0 and do those breaking change and go on 2.0 and 3.0 at whatever pace you want. So at the end, as you said, it's just a number, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. If I look at fluent assertions, I feel like introducing breaking changes, I postpone that as long as possible and then accumulate that when it's really the time to introduce breaking change. Like an example, I don't know by heart, but let me look it up. I think version 5 of fluent assertions, which introduced lots of breaking changes, was introduced, I think, almost 2 years ago. Let me check. It was introduced, actually, it's in April 2018. So that's 2.5 years ago. The thing is, if you introduce breaking changes, either you're going to run the risk that you abandon your consumers because they get fed up having to deal with the breaking changes, or you take on the commitment to maintain the previous versions, which is also a burden for you as an open source developer. So I tend to just reject breaking changes or accumulate that. So at some point when it's really time to, introduce all of them at the same time. But then I try to counter that with a lot of new features because I want people to move to 6.0 when it's released. 6.0 for me is a chance, or not just for me, but the other guys as well, to really, break with the past, get rid of a lot of things that you didn't like for a long time. But you try to make it an interesting package by making sure you add a lot of new functionality as well, because you want people to move to 6.0. Otherwise, you have to deal with all these bug fixes and feature requests on the previous generation. Which is doable, of course, but yeah, it still means you need to upmerge those changes, and if the code has changed, you have to reapply it, which comes with a cost. I mean, you see that with real projects as well.
By the way, for those upgrade changes, do you have any story or any guidance how this should work? If I remember correctly, Laurent, you were converting from n-unit assertions to fluent assertions or something? Wasn't there something like that?
No. I did that years ago to change some of the way of the assertion that we were using, which was to go from assert equal to assert that is equal.
Okay.
And
so not exactly that. Okay.
That was years ago, but the one that you mentioned that I started some months ago or a couple of months ago is to go from Rhino mock to another no, not mock
and substitute.
Fake it easy.
No, fake it easy, exactly.
Yes, I love that one as
well. And there I automated the migration by using ReSharper search with patterns to do that. I think you're talking about that.
Okay. And Dennis, do you have something like that for the migration? Or what kind of breaking changes are those?
No, this is from version 5 to 6, for instance. So like
what breaking changes do you have in between those?
Actually, most of them are about the extensibility service. Like a lot of libraries are built on top of fluent assertions. So a lot of the things internally have been refactored or redesigned. In fluent assertion is very subtle sometimes. Like an overload has changed, and because of that, somebody might run into an overload resolution change, which is not really obvious for us. But there was, and also deprecating some old functionality, like the dropping .NET 4.5 support or dropping .NET Standard 1.1, that kind of stuff. Those are obviously breaking changes. But the other things, Sorry?
May I ask which tool you are using to control the API change? Do you use something like NDPen or something like that?
No, we use another
or
tool.
Or just manually?
No. We have, what is it called? Let me look it up. It's a nice question, though. It's called approval tests. And the library that we use for that is called approval tests. Actually called like that. And what we have, it generates a text file that contains the public API for library. So when you change anything, there's a unit test running.
I see.
Yeah, and that generates a new file. If that file changed, it starts to complain about that, and then you can you have to include it in your pull request to accept those changes. Yeah, because we accidentally changed something in the past, like even a return type. If you would change the return type and somebody compiles against a new version, most likely fine. But we've also seen other open source libraries having a binary compatibility issue. Like they rely on, one version and everything seems to be compatible, but then you get like a missing method exception at runtime, which is annoying. Yeah. And obviously I use Nuke to build the build package. Thanks to Matthias, by the way, because he did the work.
The converting, Well, for open source projects, it's interesting to do more publicity, right?
Yeah. I'm actually planning to try to change some of the internal projects at my client to Nuke. Some of them are very big, so it's not going to be easy. But we're trying to set up some new standards across the whole organization because there's also teams that don't even use any of that. They just use Microsoft Publish, rely on Azure DevOps pipelines and stuff like that. Try to explain the challenges of not having your build process and source control.
That's something that bothers me so often. In the last couple of days is I've seen this in other areas as well. Like currently, I'm following along with some of the how-tos, which what's his name?
Mats Christensen is doing from the extensibility team, and he does a good job. But some of the examples before that series, which is currently ongoing, you could only use the Microsoft docs to write some extensions, and I need to write an extension also for Nuke, and those are so coupled to the idea that you use the templates from Visual Studio, so there's no ready-to-go sample which you can check out, or even better would be .NET New, something like that. And the fact why I mentioned this is because this is hiding information how everything works on a low level. On the same in the same way that, let's say, right-click publish hides information. Or in the same way, I remember that case where I was doing some integration for Azure pipelines. I was asking, okay, someone from the team, from the development team, or he was PM or something. Anyway, I was asking, okay, you have this publish test coverage results task inside provided as a in the dropdown, basically. And I asked, what's the equivalent that I would have to use if I'm in my own script? And they didn't know. I mean, it took me quite some time to reverse engineer that, but eventually I got to this. But it's really interesting that even people belonging to the same team lose the idea of how things are working on a low level, and that's the reason why I would always advise against those those YAML files and so on.
I'd also do. It's also I think a level, like a maturity thing. I mean, if you some things are so obviously the correct way of doing it and so obviously wrong if you don't do it. But yeah, it's I mean, just being able to evolve your build process because your code base evolves, and being able to test that locally without having the connection to Azure DevOps. I think it's a bit of this comes from the TFS area, Team Foundation Server area. You know, everything is done in Visual Studio. Everything is done using MS build tasks. You can't really run this locally anymore, or half-baked, or maybe it's just a matter of not even being aware of something else exists. Because I've been doing the same thing until somebody, and I think it was Damien Hickey, if I remember correctly, that pointed me at, what is it called? Sake. You know, P-Sake or Sake, it's actually pronounced. The PowerShell one. And that felt like, hey, wow, that's actually pretty nice. I can run individual steps. I can define dependencies. It looks almost like Make, you know, which we had like 25 years ago when I was still doing C++. And that worked really well for me. And then somebody started to push Cake, which also sounded cool because now you can do it in C#. Well, we all know that actually pretty well sucks because, yeah, it's not really C#. It's a different extension. IDEs don't get it. And that's why I love Nuke so well. It's just a C# project in your solution. Everything works as it's supposed to be. By the way, is JetBrains using Nuke in their projects?
No. I mean, I can say that some places of how I designed it were a bit influenced on how I've seen build automation being used in our company. So, for instance, unfortunately, actually, I have two examples. The first is, I think, but I only realized after the fact, we also have a similar path abstraction with the division operator.
Mm-hmm.
At least I've seen it somewhere. But the second and the more interesting thing for me is we have build steps which live in the same projects as the production features, and I'm not exactly sure if they're stripped out from the assembly at a later point or something. Not sure. They are attributed with build step, but that motivated me, or at least brought me to the idea. Brought me to the idea to try something, and that is the how do you say, the need to have a build step close to the affecting project. And in Nuke, how you do this is as you would still implement the thing inside the build project, but in the actual project for which the target
production code
is relevant, what you do there is to add an item group with a non-item group and then include the C# file from the build project. And then also have a link base and call it build or something. And then inside that project, you have a build folder. And under that, the necessary C# files. That is pretty cool. I have one example in Nuke, in the Nuke project itself. But that's something that motivated me, because at some point I had a discussion with one of our developers who's maintaining the build, and then I tried to solve this after the fact, that everything was in place already.
Yeah, I really like it. I'm trying to use it everywhere. I really, really like it. But maybe bumping the version will increase usage. I don't know.
I will bump it to 5 as soon as I managed some things.
5?
Just because it sounds better, Fake also is at 5, or maybe I will use.
It's going to be Nuke 5.0. Like, wait, what happened?
Or to align it to .NET 5.
Or maybe 6.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah. True.
Nah, man, it's just 1.0. It's the version that you've been working on that for like years. And now you made it 1.0, and now it's officially ready and it's being used, and you support it, and you're completely committed to support this, like the whole community, right? Maybe call it 1.1. Call it 1.1, because 1.0 always contains all kinds of diseases and problems.
You said it. You're committed to support it, and I wanted to add, even after I die.
Of course. I'm looking through the history, so. Like your history, like 20, I'm now in 2019, 0 to 12. Because when do you bump the minor version now?
When did I bump a minor version?
When do you do that? What's your rationale? Is it when you add new features, or?
Yeah. Currently, it's when I add new features.
So you started 0.1 was in 2017. So it's already extremely mature. It's like... Yeah, you kept adding features. You just didn't want to commit to it, but you kept. I mean, look at this.
Come on! When you start to use it, you see immediately that it's mature.
Yeah, of course.
I think there is some work that could be done a bit on the documentation side. Now that I started to use it, I got a bit confused. I need to go back to you, Matthias, to give you some direct feedback on that. But other than that, maybe something where we plan. What I was using also a lot is to search on GitHub all the reference of the using Nuke, whatever, to see some examples and things like that, and to get some more understanding. At the beginning, I was a bit confused by all those static everywhere and things like that. I was like, oh my God, can I use that? And but it was okay. It took half an hour to get it. But
did you use the bootstrapping logic? Playground.
Nice. Bootstrapping logic.
Yeah, what's in the introduction, because the website is very mature. It looks very professional. You have this setup Nuke thing, which will just generate a project for you.
No, definitely. This part is perfect. It's about when you go more into details. When I want particularly to build this. And how can I specify the parameters? And you end up in the documentation where you have basically an API documentation, and sometimes it's like, but okay, I'm mapping this from the command line to this extension method, and there I got a bit lost at the beginning. But I mean, nothing really crazy here. But I think there it could be a bit more. Because what I really liked and what I did not like in Cake, for example, now I think they fixed it, but was that you have always to have a plugin or an add-in or whatsoever, and you have always to map the parameters. And I'm using Independent in the build process. There were none at the time we started, so I wanted to do one. Then I was like, I had to learn lots of things. Then somebody else did it. But then I was always missing one parameter there or there. But in Nuke, what I have seen immediately is that I can specify the parameter from the command line like I want. And this for me is great.
Yeah, it's really intuitive. And if you spend a little bit of time on documenting the parameters, you can even get help and a lot of useful information. Just parallel execution. We need parallel execution. Come on, it's designed for that.
Oh yeah, this I thought it was the in. If I understood correctly, it's only when you run on some CI, but not locally, right?
No,
because I built mine to have like resharper inspection in parallel of Independent and thing like that, but it still runs sequentially.
It's planned for the 0.27 release currently, but I also introduced this sponsorship thing.
There it comes.
Yeah, and until then, I think, currently for the I set this goal of number of sponsors. So let's see. But there is currently there is already a PR. So someone I know from Vienna was working on that, and I will see when it fits time.
But the sponsorship, because that's an interesting topic if you're in the open source world. How do you see that happening?
I myself don't see it.
No, that's because I'd love to know, because look at Fluent Assertions with the number of downloads. I've always been trying to find a way to monetize it a little bit, at least to support all the time that me and Jonas, the other guy, spend it. Like, can you explain maybe what you have in mind with the sponsorship thing?
Well, it was not my idea actually. At some point, I noticed this story about a guy who did something called sponsorware, and the idea is that you still have a couple of tiers, and you also have perks for them. So, for instance, one of the perks for, I think, for one of them, it's that you gain access to the early access to the releases. So if something wasn't released yet, you can still access it. And otherwise, if a certain number of sponsors was reached, then the next version becomes public. That is the idea.
But how would you do that with an enterprise? Like I work for a client which is pretty big, with a big purchasing department and lots of different hoops and hurdles you have to go through to get a license for something. Mm-hmm. How would that work? Because it's not like I'm personally going to pay you and then my client can use it or something, right?
I don't have an answer to every situation, but yeah, depends.
Yeah, I remember I had this.
Do you think a license would be easier in that case?
To be honest, we had the same discussion on Twitter a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about monetizing Fluent Assertions or asking questions. The thing is, as soon as it's not free anymore, it means a developer needs to get a license. And getting a license for anything, even if I look at a typical client that I deal with, like getting GitKraken is my preferred UI, and it's like $50. But I literally spent hours trying to find the right person to get me a license, and then it has to be approved by purchasing and invoicing, and then your manager has to approve it, and you have to go through the whole process. But the thing is, that's still simple because you can associate the license with me as a developer. But if you're getting a license to put something in source control, which is built on a build system, a build engine, how is that going to work?
But to be honest, I think this is a good middle way even for that situation, because well, not every company works that way with client and they have to do the expenses, right? Sometimes you also have bigger companies which might even have a higher interest in the tool or even more profit, and for them it should be able to step up. And if at that in that case, if at some point I say, okay, if we reach that goal, then everything is public to the whole world, then also the other side benefits. I mean, like the situation you described, and you're not left out.
I'm not sure. The thing is,
the only example I have from my side was with MVVM Lite, which we are using from the beginning. In fact, I was helping a bit Laurent on this years ago, a long time ago. And we ended up convincing the manager in the company, the CEO, to pay him something at the end.
Like a one-time fee or something.
Yeah. At that time, it was like...
Yeah, but
I have to say it was a good amount of money, I think, as far as I remember, and it's nice. But yeah, I see it more like companies should turn back to open source project like this and finance a part when you benefit out of the work of those person in your product. You have to push the company to put some money on it. I see lots of friends like Sebastian Ross, which is in Horshard CMS. He's sponsoring. I've started to see him sponsoring lots of people on the community, which is super nice. But at the end, I think it's really the company that make the difference. It's the company that have the money that can afford licenses or things like that. And
yeah, I agree with you. It's just that you need to find the right person that's willing to pay for that.
Yeah, and if you're already in a company which doesn't want to pay you the tool to make your job more efficient, then I can understand that they have problem to pay an external person to work on his funny project. So
no, it's not like that, because if I'm working for a client, I act as an employee. So it's not like that. It's just that because if a company gets sufficiently big, there's too many departments involved in just getting a license, and then the cost of getting a license, just getting the amount of people mobilized to get it approved, is so high, people just give up. And if there's an alternative that's free, then most likely people go for something that's free, because then they don't have to deal with the managers and the managers and the purchasing departments. But if you have
I was lucky on that side, so
yeah,
I always targeted small company without too much management levels and things like that, and I could always choose the tool I'm using. So
yeah, generally it's true.
It happens. I mean, I was saying that, but at the end, I was not happy about the machine I was using at work, and I bought one, and I use my personal one. So
wow, yeah, I have another example. If you look at, for instance, Slack, I love Slack, and a company there was a company I worked with, and everybody was using Slack, but then people started to run into the limits of the free version, and that company also had Office 365 licenses. So when we started asking, like, hey, we would like to get some licenses for Slack, then the question came, but wait a second, why would we pay for that every month if we have Teams, which is free for us because it's in our package, And then the person that needs to decide on that is probably not even going to notice the difference. They said, like, it's a chatting tool. Why is that such a thing? Yeah. It's the same like getting ReSharper licenses or switching to Rider. Like, hey, we have Visual Studio. What's wrong with Visual Studio? And then I actually did the analysis and wrote a couple of blog posts to, support how big the difference is. And then that was enough to convince whoever was in charge to give everybody the right license they need. But the people that need to decide on that are typically not the people that use the tool or can judge whether it's the right tool or not. And then it depends on the relationship you have with that person, if he trusts you.
Yeah, as I said, I was always always lucky because I could always choose the tool. I had not to ask anything, and I had not that kind of problem. And for sure, you have to show also that you are productive with the thing. But
yeah,
there was one comment, and I hope I get the first name right. It's Gianluigi. Your coworker?
I worked with Gianluigi, might be him, yeah, in the past.
He said, and by the way, the face seems familiar. I've seen that also for my previous project, TestFX, if I remember correctly. Anyway, or for TestLinker, I don't know.
Yeah. Then it's him, because he made one version because we were using it, and it was always too slow because in my team we update the tool when the tool becomes available, but the add-ins of ReSharper were not updated, so he made an update. So it's Gianluigi, yeah, I know.
Okay,
for sure.
So the comment was, for example, it would be much easier to ask for buying licenses than supporting with sponsorships.
Yeah, I can imagine if you can get a license that you put in source control, which allows you to build. I think it's easier to do, but then the question is, how much are you going to charge for that?
But it's also just easier for the businesses. It's not easier for the individual maintaining it.
Yeah, it's the opposite. It's from the company perspective that it's easier.
Yeah. I just wonder if I would say, for instance, there is a license for this and that product, but there's still the opportunity to do open source, to do sponsorships. Would that still be a reason to do the licensing? Probably not, right? Then the answer is similar as Dennis said. It's already free. Why should we pay for a license or something?
Well, I'm thinking of something. Every project that I dealt with at some point ran into the problem of slow builds. Like if a code base becomes sufficiently big, builds get slower.
Don't tell me that today.
Yes, exactly. And what do people do to fix that? Usually managers are aware because developers keep saying that, reporting this in retrospectives and meetings like our builds are too slow, so the development life cycle is too slow. What if you could say, you know what, we've already invested in Nuke. If you buy, I don't know, a 500 euro license now, then our builds will suddenly be faster, which is surely going to be way cheaper than me as a developer spending a full day trying to, manually parallelize some builds in Team City or creating multiple build change and stuff like that. But if you enable this feature, which will suddenly make it a lot faster already out of the box, that might be worth something.
That's actually something that I currently consider to, the parallelization through CI infrastructure is not completely finished as of now. It kind of works, but there's one essential feature missing, which is serializing state from one agent to the other. That's still missing. And I'm actually considering making this a paid NuGet package. And have Nuke generally accessible for everyone, and it can execute on one agent. And for the parallelization, for test parallelization and all that stuff, something that really boosts, then making that paid. But I'm not sure yet. So
then you pay one time and you just get a different binary version or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Which will probably be pirated at some point, but maybe it's just worth the time.
I don't know. That is. I could think that in that case I would know good ways how to prevent that. I mean, you could. Yeah, I don't know.
Tell you from my past, there is none. There is none.
No, there's none. as long as it's .NET, you can decompile it. You can do. I mean, just
whatever
go.
it is.
Yeah, open up a writer or ReSharper, and it gives you a perfectly readable decompiled thing. So there's no point in it. And even using license files, like, I mean, it's just the fact that you pay for it, you get a new version. I think that's useful. And if you pay for this yearly, and that means you always get the latest and greatest for free, or not for free, but inside that's already useful, because if you have 10 clients, that's 5,000 euros a year extra, which you can use for developing the features further. That's a lot of money, actually. But like with Fluent Insertions, I can't do that. There's no option there. But for you, the parallelization of tasks, like a single new script suddenly starts to run things in parallel because it was designed for that. That would be brilliant. That would be worth money. Even 1,000 euros would be worth it easily, because that's 1 day of working. And it typically costs days or weeks to, get the same thing using build chains in TeamCity and stuff like that. That's serious work.
Yeah, true.
That's true. Yeah.
But may I ask the root of the thing? Because I guess you want to win something out of it, not only the glory, but to live.
But for me,
or for you.
To whom? To me.
Yeah.
Difficult question, to be honest. At first, I had no intentions to make any money out of that, really. And that was until, I think, near the end end of last year, I set up the Open Collective. That was basically as a way for people who would like to contribute, and I was okay if not. But beginning of this year, I felt that there's a lot of pressure sometimes from people in issues, in personal conversations, in the chat and so on, and it was really in a way that made me feel not really great, because there was like when people start to explain to you that you should follow semantic versioning, and that was not even intended. I mean, it was a breaking change without knowing. Otherwise, I know how this thing works, right? Usually I'm very careful with the changelog and bumping versions and so on, or I don't know, issues which were not well formulated, like in a way that they expect me to do this, and where you feel like, okay, my work isn't worth anything.
But I think there the perspective is on your side. It's how you get back, or you get these things.
I know.
And I think adding money on top of that would make it even worse. Could make it even worse. Because the expectation of the people when you have money in the situation, I think it's they're asking for even more.
I don't know. I think after that after I put all those goals out there, and also the my headphones will hang up on me in a moment. Let me see. Let's switch. Okay, now I can put out the other one.
Oh, that's a nice trick. I can't do that.
I think afterwards things got a bit better, and it started to be more respectful. Well, maybe it was just a one-time incident, but on the other side, I think one other colleague of mine, he also roughly, I'm paraphrasing here, but it's like, if it's for free, then it might also mean it's not worth so much, which is of course not true. There's many software out there which but it's like
it can be perceived like that for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, let's put a tag on it in some way at least. And I tried to find a middle way, like I said, where all can profit after a couple, and usually this demand or this wish, let's call it, is also more targeted as to big companies. Really, I mean, I don't want to get a millionaire out of it. My first intentions were to help other people and to make a way how to build in an efficient way, or make a good framework for build automation. But over time, it's a lot of responsibility.
Sure.
Like someone said, and I feel like with builds, it's also a bit different compared to other libraries, because I have one friend who's also working in a open source project, and I told him some stories, and he said, "Wow, they all must be really frustrated that they treat you like that." And yeah, of course, it's just incidents, and hopefully the majority is just happy. But
I think for me, you have to keep the fun. I'm turning in end of the month 50. I'm doing development since I'm 12. I still keep the fun, and I think it's really important. And I guess you're much younger than myself, and I think it's also how you perceived from what the other are bringing. I think you need to also take some distance. Nuke is great. What you have done with Nuke is really fantastic. I'm not an expert at all. I spent a weekend on it, but I compare it with things that I've seen over time. I started with some shell script calling make and things like that a long time ago, to Cake and now Nuke, and I'm sure we will end up with Nuke at my company. But again, I think this open source things, it's a tough thing. When you have I think when you have a project that becomes successful, people are asking more and more out of it somehow. And I think it's your perception also to take distance and to say, I want to keep the fun I had when I started it. And for that, I should also not be too much offended or whatsoever when somebody is an harsh on a comment or something like that. Because at the end, they are using your tool. And this you should not forget.
Yeah. And this is funny. Initially, I was really trying hard to, because when I started, there were pretty, at least from my point of view, pretty severe things in Cake. From my point of view, no one has to disagree. No one has to agree. And at that moment, I was really trying hard to move people using it to not run into issues. Yeah, and at the same time, if it was, well, it was for fun for sure, but also it's a bit of a competition and run, because Cake was still gaining much popularity, and actually I wanted people to prevent from it, at least at that point, but they fixed a few things, and it's two-sided. You're motivated, but it's like an endless battle, and I think I reached feature parity. And I don't mean in terms of like what you said with the different add-ins and so on. That's aside. I think that's not a characteristic or feature of the build system. It's more like an on-top thing. But I reached feature parity long ago, and still it's often debated which is better. And I hear that also still quite often, like Fake has more modules and stuff like that, and like Cake.
Cake is not a compare. It's not even a challenge. I mean, the fact that Nuke is real C#, it's part of your project. The whole dependency thing, it's such. I mean, everything works. Your IDE, the navigation, refactoring, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a no-brainer.
Having add-ins per ID to run the task is great. The bootstrapping is great. The way I told you, I'm using NDepend in the build system. You don't have an add-in for that, or I didn't find one, but I was able to integrate it in minutes without never touching your tool before.
Yeah. Being able to run
the
any
attribute
executable
way of integrating a tool is fantastic.
Just define a CLI called like SonarCube was not integrated, and you just define a statement for a custom tool and you just invoke it. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to figure out the whole Fluent syntax, but it just works. You get the .NET runtime is being installed automatically for you. You don't have to deal with it. It runs on Linux. It runs on. Yeah, the only thing which is missing, because I have a couple of people I work with that love to run their builds on Docker to isolate the dependencies. That's something I was planning to work on myself, like a version of Cake that you can run. Of Nuke that you can run without or with Docker. So locally you can do it without because it's faster. But on the build engine, you can actually run it inside Docker. It will just, spin up a Docker container for you. That's a nice add-in. But everything just works. Why would you need anything else?
I was thinking about a similar Docker integration as well. Yeah. But if you like, you can create an issue, and because for me the issue about Docker is I really don't use it, and I have no experience what's important, and if I have a good issue, then I can act on it in a much better way.
I'll probably have some time to work on it, like take an example, write a blog post about it, and if you feel like it's interesting enough, you can pull it in, or we can work together on it or something.
Definitely.
Trying to balance my time, of course, yeah.
So something, and by the way, I didn't want to make this praising you meeting.
You have too fun. This is why.
But something really interesting for the next version is also there will be a way to save profiles. So let's say you have development and production environment, and you pass different parameters based on each to the tool as a parameter, then you can save them as profiles in a JSON file, and they get loaded automatically. So instead of passing 10 parameters, you can say I want to load the profile development, and then the 10 parameters get resolved properly.
Don't make it too smart, huh? If you add too much magic and conventions, people get confused again.
It's interesting because much of it I use for myself. So this originated from the fact that I still publish resharper and writer plugins from my local machine, and I also don't want to move that to a CI because several reasons. But then I also don't want to move the API key along so often, etc. And I also don't want to save it in plain text on my machine. So then this idea originated. And what it does actually for an API key, it will save it encrypt it on the machine. There's also a password file, and it's also linked in the project in the build project file, so that you can see it. And instead of putting that key into every project, it's saved globally in the user profile. I mean, in the proper profile home directory, and like in the .ssh folder, similar like that. And then it's shared across all the projects that actually use this API key, and I can publish using that.
Why don't you want to have that build? This is, for example, I have an add-in which is called Git diff margin for Visual Studio, and I have my build process is on Azure DevOps because it was, for me at that time, easy to automate it like this. I have CI with which is building and testing the thing, but I have a CD process which I can trigger by hand, which will version push the package to Visual Studio Marketplace, push it to Chocolatey, and things like that. So why you don't want to have that last step into the build process or
CI
deployment process? Yeah.
Well, in this particular case, it's because the public Team City instance, which everyone can use, it's not exactly safe because the agent instance is reused, and that could mean that passwords could be grabbed. And I don't want to use it to AppWare or GitHub Actions or any other, because that would mean I put a secret which is bound to JetBrains on a Microsoft thing. And so why I'm not actually worried, but I would still not do it. But I'm okay with that way of doing it. And with more effort, I'm also sure I could get a separate agent through my work, but I'm okay this way because most of the time, anyway, I need to do my changes and doing it from. Actually, I need to trigger it manually because with the EAP builds, plugins need to be recompiled every time. And I'm currently making this a little bit more fluent, also using Nuke for that. So actually to invoke Gradle even, and that works out well.
But by the way, I would have a question. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we talk too much about Nuke, but whatever. For me, it was so easy to import, for example, and depend. I was asking myself why we came with some extension for the tool and just not import everything like that. Why do you have what can I like the resharper inspection or because at the end I'm not sure it's easier. I have to it's easier because I can type an arrow to completion if I find correctly the thing I want to use, but I have to map the parameter of the command line to the extension or the method, and sometimes
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So how do you balance the choice between I create this, I don't know if you call it add-in or whatsoever in Nuke, or I don't have it?
You mean between string interpolation or string way and the fluent way?
Exactly.
Yeah. How I personally balance that, I don't know. Often it's the case that if some commands are missing, I will use the string interpolation way. And then I realize, okay, I need to, I don't know, add one parameter in a conditional way. And from that moment already, the string way is really annoying. You don't want that. Because with the Fluent API, you have the combine with method, which is generic to all the Fluent APIs, or the when method to set something conditionally. And usually after I introduced that, it was way more helpful to use the Fluent one. Now, few exceptions, Git, for instance, I would never invoke Git with the Fluent API. Wouldn't make sense, like enable force or something. I don't know, probably not. But I don't have a clear answer when one should be used and the other not. But what I intend to do at some point is to have a conversion between those, especially in Rider and Resharper, because the metadata we can save that onto the or inside the classes which represent the settings, and then it could be transformed, vice versa. Of course, only when no whens are used, because otherwise it's completely difficult. But if it's just a straight line of Fluent calls, then this should be pretty easy. And also the other way around, right? So you write something on the command line, you copy it, insert it into a string, and then you could just do Alt Enter, let's say, and it will transform to the Fluent way. That's the ultimate goal for that. Yeah,
that's a feature for what Dennis was saying for the paying version.
Yeah, indeed.
That's true as well. Yeah.
In fact, I came with this question because we are doing a .NET Publish, and in the .NET Publish, a Fluent API, I was searching the way to say I want one executable. I'm not sure anymore it's called like this.
It's a self-contained.
Self-contained.
That's the one you're looking for, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is not in the Fluent API, but I could easily pass it with the command line parameters interpolation.
Yeah, you can always tweak the command line that Nuke built for you. Yeah, indeed.
But then I could not really make sense out of how do you decide which one you have and which one you don't. I guess it's also a maintenance thing. When they had some new parameters, for sure, would make sense.
But this particular one, self-contained, is a property. So so you could also use just set
in the CS Prod, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So in this case, and this is difficult because I mean, MS Build they add new well-known properties on a daily basis. Not exactly, but of course, I mean, I still have on my list to ask a friend on how to effectively do that. But maybe it's really just, I don't know, running MS Build once or grabbing all properties in some way from the SDK folder, and then generating all the delegates for that. But it's interesting. I can, if you like, I can recommend you just to see how this internally works. In Nuke, just search for the .net.json file, and then you see how
I think I saw that
actually works.
Nice.
I think
so much intelligence. Yeah, so much intelligence. Just use it, people. Whoever is listening, just use it. Stop wasting time. Yeah, it's the same thing with all these open source projects. You also need to be aware that they exist. That's the thing. There's so much stuff over there, and if you need to be lucky enough that somebody points you at that. It's with everything that we do.
That's true.
And for everything, there's a timing thing also,
Yeah. If somebody hasn't experienced, you probably mean when somebody hasn't experienced the problem, then they don't even know what they're missing.
Yeah,
that's true.
And as I said before, for me, I'm convinced about all of this tool. I was convinced about Nuke when I read it, but it's also, we have kind of a legacy build system. It's not from one day to the other that you change from one to the other, even if you see the added value. I think if it would be productive code that you ship a feature to a client, to a customer, you have argument that you can bring into your management that is different than, hey, I want to change my build script because it's C# and I can make a F2 and rename a task without searching everywhere or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Even I don't have such manager where I need to report these things. I'm fully free to do this change, but I also have to put. I mean, this management thing I still have to do for my team. It's not total freedom. It has a cost. We see the advantage. We will go there, but it takes time. And I think it's. The people have to realize, like I said, my experience long time ago, the build script, TeamCity I used TeamCity like crazy for years. The company started to use TeamCity also on the other part with Java and things like that. When I introduced it, then you learn things. Oh, but I need to do a patch. But if I go back, I don't have my build my build is not working anymore because it was done differently at that time. It's not versioned.
Yeah.
So I need to version my build script with my source code. Makes sense. And I think people are learning this kind of things over time, It takes time. And I think it would be the same from going to a text, XML, pseudo C#, whatever come next.
True. Yeah, it's true. It's the learning curve. It's even the hype cycle sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
If you experience enough, you see certain things and problems appearing which other people don't see. And if you then try to introduce complexity or something they perceive as complexity, it's like, why do we do that? Microsoft didn't tell us. We have pipelines. It just work. Yeah. Yeah, that's our profession. All right. It was fun.
Definitely.
Dennis would like to leave already.
I know. It was a very long day. I didn't realize it was I thought it was like 30 minutes to 45 minutes.
I have a special message for Gigi if he's still there. Gigi, we shipped the .NET Core version of Business Canvas yesterday.
Congratulations. Yes.
Thanks. So Gigi, in fact, was working in my team. He left a year ago or something like that. I think we were talking about porting from .NET Framework to .NET Core already when he was there. And yesterday we finally shipped. 1 week before .NET 5.
And now you have the next job. But this is our job. Things change. You need to keep adapting. I mean,
you go from case to
yeah. I mean, literally moved my code base from Fluent Assertions from, I don't know, a batch file to Sake to Cake and now to Nuke.
And that was so funny to watch while I was in the talk in where was it?
Tegorama.
Yeah.
You see the history, yeah? You see all the .NET versions. You see all the things like portable class libraries or shared files moving to .NET Standard. It's funny. You see the whole thing evolving. I used to be on Coplex, and then you move from Coplex to Coplex SVN or something to Coplex Git at some point. And, I think the people at Coplex thought it was a smart idea to support Git. And they offered an automatic conversion. You could just send an email, I want my repo to be converted from TFS source control to Git. And they probably never realized that was actually the step in the back. Because as soon as they converted it to Git, nothing stopped you from just moving to Bitbucket or GitHub, like in the next day, basically. And they did all the work for you, which is funny, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Codeplex.
Yeah.
I've not heard of that.
Well, do you still remember MFC?
MFC. I even worked with WTL, Windows Template Library in C++.
Oh, man. You're old enough for that.
I have code project article on it, I think, still.
I feel very young now.
Yes. STL?
Yeah, you are, I tell you.
Did you use STL?
Yes.
Or C++, standard template, like factors and stuff, yeah.
I was doing I was the lead of the research and development of a small startup in Basel, where we were doing fingerprint authentication algorithm, working with different sensors before it became mainstream when you add it into the keyboard of your PC or whatsoever. And we were using this kind of thing, the STL, WTL, because we were working on Windows for the UI and things like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is really old.
What was your
first I feel computer? Old.
Yeah, but what was your first computer? Where did you actually program the first time?
I show you.
Oh my God. He still has it there. Ooh. That is nice. Yeah, you left in the box.
Yeah, cool. I have to rebuild it. It's my parent that did it.
What was it called again? I forgot.
ZX81.
Oh yeah, ZX81.
With 1 kilobyte of memory, man.
When was that shipped? ZX81.
82
ZX
or
Spectrum, right?
81 or something like that. It's the one before the ZX Spectrum.
Yeah, 1981. Wow. You actually programmed on that?
Yes, in assembly code, ZX80.
Man,
And by basic, could not do much. I mean,
you turned 50 this year, right?
Yeah, end of this month.
Okay, I turned 47, so I'm a bit younger than you.
Yeah.
A lot younger. My first computer I programmed on was a Commodore 64.
I was part of the demo scene on Commodore 64.
Really? Me too.
Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah.
What was the name of the band?
Oh. Cyberdyne.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't really famous. But yeah, I still remember like creating these colored bars with using the coprocessor, you know, that kind of stuff you can do to assembly. That's a long time ago.
In fact, the first time I came to Netherlands was for a demo competition.
Oh wow! Then you have been playing at
Tilburg.
Tilburg.
Yeah, south of Netherlands.
Could be.
Yeah.
It was very popular at that time.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I never reached those levels. It was just fun. I really enjoyed it because I really enjoyed music. I created at some point. I was building my own sound tracker. Maybe you remember that term, sound tracker?
Yeah, sure, I remember. Yeah.
Oh man, I love that. I mean, I'm from the age I was raised with music from Jean-Michel Jarre. You know, you must know them as a Frenchie. Sure. Yeah. And oh man, being able to produce music like that from a computer, that was like magic. You know, I remember like sitting in my room and you have these demo musics, like you just saw all these lines drawing on the screen, and you had like orchestral maneuvers in the dark and that kind of music. That was brilliant, man.
Yeah,
and then people figured out how they could fake samples. They can play samples on the Commodore 64 by playing around with the volume. You know, that kind of stuff. It was really cool. Like you had drums and everything.
No, that was good time.
Yeah. It's funny because I listened to a lot of German trance music, and Scooter is, of course, very hot these days with his new song, Fuck 2020. And because I was watching it on YouTube, I went back to memory lane and I came back to some German like trance artists. Maybe Matthias knows them, R&B and DJ Quicksilver. And I found some interviews with them, and these guys are, of course, always also old, like 50s and something. And they showed all the equipment they had to use to create the sounds. Like, really, man, all these physical things with buttons, and you know. And now, what does?
And now you click on a computer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly, like that.
Okay, I have to say a few things. First, about the what was it?
ZX81.
Sinclair ZX81.
Based on the lower right only. Okay, quite interesting. And also regarding Scooter, I just checked and I missed your like on my tweet, Dennis, for and it said the song, it references Scooter, the Logical song, and it says, "Everyone, let's go party tonight." Scooter, good morning, because he starts with "good morning" in that song. And that's so funny. I had such a hard laugh about that.
When did he do that? I missed that.
Well, not specifically to you, but I will post the link to my tweet here, and then you can see for yourself.
Matt Koch, I'm looking it up while we speak. Matthias is wondering.
Check the video. That's interesting. And he really starts with "good morning." By the way, another thing I should say from Todor, a friend of mine, he says, "Say hi to Dennis from me." Not sure if he remembers me from Europe conference.
Of course, I remember him. Of course, I do.
It's such a small world, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy. It's
surprising. Yeah.
Todor was the one who brought 1,000 nuke stickers to me.
1,000?
1,000, yeah. Well, not he specifically, but he was part in the delivery chain.
Oh, really?
because he knows a guy in Bulgaria who does printing, and but also has a colleague in Munich. And one day I met this colleague in Munich, second time already, and we had like dinner, and then he said, "Oh, I have something for you." That was a weird moment, but I was quite surprised.
I'm actually trying to remember where I met Tudor. I think I must have been at a conference somewhere. I still remember what he looks like because we talked extensively about stuff, but I just don't remember where it was. I met you at Techorama, right, Matthias? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, only brief.
Yeah, true. I remember. All right.
Now that we talked about Codeplex, have you ever been invited by Microsoft in Barcelona long time ago about Codeplex? Yeah. It was not the TechEd. It was a special event linked to Codeplex and the integration into Visual Studio.
No, No, I wasn't there.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I remember some people from the.
I visited TechEd a couple of times, which was really fun.
Same. Yeah.
I actually presented on TechEd once ever. My first public presentation was on TechEd.
Yeah, I never did that.
That's also
some events in France.
Long time ago, this TechEd. I mean, I know it was a thing a couple of years ago, but I don't know. I haven't heard about it for ages.
It's funny because do you remember PDC then?
Yeah, I went 2009 in Las Vegas. In Los Angeles.
No, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
2009 was with the big Halloween party in the Universal Studios. I was there. And I was there as well in 2008. Oh man, I have so much nice memories from visiting PDC. There was a big delegation from the Netherlands as well. It was 2009. Was that when we got the laptop with the reversible? Is that 2008?
Maybe. I didn't get a laptop, in fact.
I got a laptop.
But you know, Microsoft invited me. They paid the flight, the hotel, and everything. So I could not ask for a laptop, I guess. If somebody got one, I don't know.
It was for me. It was the first time visiting US. Well, not the first time, the second time, but definitely the first time in LA, and that was really pretty impressive. And that was like lots of parties and lots of fun and lots of networking. And remember, that was actually, I think, the year when they introduced O. Maybe you remember that? Was it called O?
The complexity notation?
No, there was this thing that they were designing where you could design your applications in a visual way. And it was supposed to be completely... Don Box was presenting this. It was a new language platform.
And everybody could run client-server transparently and things like that?
Yeah, it was a completely new language. There was a book written about that, and everybody, I remember sitting outside with a lot of people like, what is this thing supposed to be? We don't get it. What was it called? Was it called O?
Hey. And here he is.
Hey.
Hi, Paul.
Nice to see you, man.
Nice to see you too. How are you?
Good. Where did we meet? I was just trying to remember.
Called Europe in Poland, the one that got cancelled after there.
That's the one. Yes.
Remember? Yeah.
Yeah, Called Europe.
Yeah, I spoke about Secures there.
Yeah. Now remember, we actually exchanged some experience as well.
Yeah, and beer.
And beer. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, 2-3 years ago, something like that.
Yes, I'm trying to remember what this thing is where people were actually... I'm going to put a tweet out. What was that thing that Microsoft cooked up during the PDC in 2008 or 2009?
By the way, Toto, why didn't you say something before? I mean, I already tweeted at noon or something that we have 2 seats free.
I have no idea. I never saw it. How that happened beats me.
Yeah, if I had known, I would have asked you, of course.
Yeah, no, I freed myself like 20 minutes ago, and I saw a notification on my phone from YouTube that you are broadcasting live, and I was like, well, what he's doing. And I heard you talking about Nuke and the string interpolation thing and influencing text is better or not. So I had to come and tell you that Fluent is better.
Right? Obviously.
Obviously, it is better.
But I'm still not earning any money with it. I just checked the 67 million downloads, but
no,
nobody is not getting a lot of attention now. I'm not getting rich. So I've asked a question, and I'm wondering, like, how long will it take for somebody to answer that? But yeah, man, this was this new thing that Microsoft came up with, like 2008, 2009. That was fun, right, Laurent? Universal
Yeah, it was
Studios
really fun.
with the airplane and everything. That was really well done.
The only part that was not fun is that I spent 22 hours in the airport on the way back.
Oh, wow.
Because they called me too late to take the next flight. And that was cool.
That was not cool, no.
No, that was not cool. This part was not cool. The previous part, the conference was really great. And
going back to conferences, I guess it will take a while until we're back.
It's really a long time I've not attended one. In fact, no, it's not true. I went last year.
Even not virtually?
No, virtually, yes. I meant to say physically. Yeah.
Okay.
Virtually, I don't know. I have to try it once. Probably we'll do it. The French guys in Paris, they always forget the conference name. I think they were going
Dev Day, I think.
Yeah, there's something soon happening, but it's also like a bit like this.
It's in Belgium. No?
No, it's I always forget his name. The big French dude. Everything is recorded, of course, but I'll look it up. But I don't know. I need to see the audience. I think I need to interact with the audience and see how they respond and if the message comes across. And of course, I don't have. I'm planning to move to the top floor, have my own little room because now I'm sitting in the living room, which is weird. And usually my wife is around and the kids, so it's difficult to find some time alone to be able to do that. Attending a conference from home is not the same.
No.
It's not, you're not disconnected. You start to still read your messages. You're still probably on your second screen.
Absolutely.
Keep working. That's why it's probably not going to work for me.
I've seen some workshops around how you prepare your home desk for remote conferences, for giving remote talks, etc. And it's also like a huge huge expanses that you have to commit to. And I don't know, at some point, hopefully, this will also get worthless again, right? Because no one wants virtual events anymore after some time, hopefully.
Maybe not events, but I have to say that, so as I said, I'm living in a small village east of France, and most of the meetup and things like that happened in the big city, and so you cannot attend. And now I'm really happy to have to be able to attend some meetups here and there, So
that's
maybe
true.
The conference is another thing, because you want to meet the people and everything, which is, I think, the best part of the conference. But for meetup, I really enjoy it now.
Yeah, but how do you make the difference? How is an online conference different than a Udemy course? I mean, this is how it looks like to me from a visitor point of view. Yes, you can maybe write to the guy, even have some, I don't know, discussions in a chat room or whatever, but it's not the same. It's not the link is missing. Everything is artificial. So yeah, I haven't attended or spoke to a conference this year. I even haven't applied because it just I don't have the motivation to do it.
Not for the online stuff, no. By the way, it was Oslo. Microsoft Oslo, and there was a language.
Oslo, the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, and there was something called M, the language.
Yeah. I remember now.
Yeah. Like Matthias, like what? What is that? It's only 13 years ago, but yeah.
There was also another comment about pre-recorded conferences. I'm also not crazy about pre-recorded conferences. Online is fine, but please live.
Yeah.
And also as the presenter, I can't agree more. I did one pre-recorded presentation, and it took me, I think, 9 hours.
Jesus.
And that is on the same conference. You could also clearly see some were okay with the way how things were going. I mean, they had a minor speaking mistake at the very beginning, and they didn't even care to restart at that part, right? And which is okay. But for those, if you're really annoyed about those mistakes, then you're constantly re-recording, and afterwards you have to cut the whole thing together and edit it. And in the final, and in the final version, it even happened. I'm not sure. Tudor might already know that story. But in the final version, I forgot to cut one little piece, and at that moment, I saw it live for the first time as well as the audience, and I repeated 3 times the same thing. And I was sitting there. I was sitting there. I was not visible. It was just the slides and my voice. But I was praying to God, please don't say anything stupid now. Like, I don't know. It wasn't bad. It was really just like that I repeated the same thing 3 times. But yeah, that's the result of that.
Yeah. All right. Hey, guys. It was a blast, but I really need to go to bed.
Have a good night then.
Thank you, Matthias, for the...
Good night. Thanks for joining. I think next time this time it was just a mistake that Rodney, I thought he might join, and he's on the other side of the ocean. So otherwise, if I know next time it's only people from Europe, then I would surely also suggest 8 p.m. local time.
Yeah, that would have been better.
But
for
yeah.
me. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. But it's a good thing. It's the first time. So
anyway,
thanks for joining.
Nice to meet you, Laurent. Nice to see you again, Tudor. Enjoy the evening, and maybe next time.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay.
See you.
See you guys.
See you. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Au revoir.
So if you like, we can stick around.
Yeah, I'm in the middle now, so.
Depends
we
on
sit
you.
on top of you.
Yeah, that's true. But I have these little horns here, like horns. So what did you talk about before I got in? Besides string interpolation.
Besides what?
Besides string interpolation and fluent syntax.
About Nuke.
Nuke. Never heard about it.
No, I'm really honest here. Before that meeting, I tried to come up with a few things which are more generic and neutral to the topic. I don't always want to promote anything here, but of course I will invite people that I know through some of the work that I do, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, both of them, they talked about Nuke for quite some time.
We have no choice. You have a cap which is written on top of it, Nuke in big letter. So,
but I explained here. Look at that. You want to see that? No. Also, I turned it up to make it only green. Okay.
Now, what else did we talk? We talked about the old days of computers with 1 kilobyte of memory?
Well, I'm not that old, so
yeah.
My first computer was Pentium, 120 megahertz, the first one. This was my first one. Before that, I didn't have any. Some of my friends had. There was a Bulgarian computer. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It was called Pravets 16. So it was 16-bit machine running some kind of. It was basically a Macintosh clone, as far as I know. Yeah, but I don't know much about it because I was too little. I didn't know any better than playing Tanks of Karateka on it, and that was it. So yeah, but Pentium was my first one. I don't remember how much RAM that it had, but yeah, but it was running Windows 95.
Okay.
95 already.
Yeah,
I remember my grandparents. They had one with Windows 3.1.
Yeah, this one also had 3.1 pre-installed when I got it, but I upgraded to 95 because I was one of the cool kids. So yeah, Windows 95. This was my first blast from the past.
And we had a compact Presario. I also think it was one of the first Intel processors on it, but I can't put a finger on it which one exactly it was. I don't know. We also had a Peacock at some point, or was it just the monitor? I don't know.
Yeah, because
very distant memories.
Mine wasn't a branded thing. It was like custom built stuff. I didn't know how, but somebody just put up a computer for me when I was little. Yeah. But yeah, this was like
And I also remember my parents were always considered, because coding was not a topic until I was 14, I think, and they were always worried that I might end up only playing video games. I was pretty good at Quake, but I think it's funny when people talk about their first programming language. For me, it was not exactly a language, but the first thing I did with programming was in the MIRC client, because you could do scripting in it.
Of course, I wrote my I had a custom built script. Everybody was doing their custom built everything. So I even got some binary editor and edited out the MIRC exe file icon, so it looks different to my script or whatever.
But it's interesting. If I would have not played Quake, I wouldn't have ended on QuakeNet. I mean, it was the IRC chat at that time, and so I wouldn't have used the IRC client.
So this was also one of my first experiences with programming was the script for MIRC, and also because I was an IRC operator at that time. We had an IRC server in my town joined to a Bulgarian network here, so I was an operator there, and I was spotting. There were these bots called egg drop bots, which were guardians for channels. So I was writing TCL scripts for them, so that they can. So there was this TCL syntax for writing stuff like preventing floods in channels or takeovers or whatever, or playing, or you can play some trivia with the bot, things like that. This was the first things I did.
I was so jealous at that time when people had a bot in their channel, because
I had many. Yeah.
The only way you could have one was to have a VM, right? You wouldn't do your own, and also
a shell somewhere. Yeah.
And also on QuakeNet there were two bots you could invite, which were L, which you get with 10 participants over a certain time, and Q. Q was also a thing that you could invite into your channel, but only with 25 people over a period of time.
I don't believe those were bots per se. Those were more like the services for the IRC server. Yeah. So they were, the special services that.
But I don't remember what they did.
Usually they do the same thing. They guard the channel so that if you give operational op status to somebody else, they don't kick you out and take over your channel and throw everybody out and things like that, because kids were doing that all the time then. So most of it was doing that, or preventing flood, or cursing inside the channel, things like that. It was fun times, yeah. Yeah, and it was the same time. I mean, I started out because it was the same time when I started high school. I was like 8th or 9th grade, and the course that I had, or the major that I had in high school was informatics, and we were learning Pascal there. They were teaching us Pascal. This was my first development attempt, but something that I had to learn then. It was first Pascal, and then we learned a little bit of C. Not C++, but C. But yeah, mostly that.
Laurent, did you have some programming in school? In your time?
At the time I was at school, you mean, or right now?
Yeah.
No, till the engineer. I mean, a bit at the university, where we did some Pascal, some algorithm, but it was an option. But then it was like at the engineering school.
Okay. I just recently passed the homepage of my old school, and I think it reminded me of the times that I have computer science in class there. Well, not exactly science for us; it's called informatic.
Same in Bulgaria. Okay. Informatics,
yeah, but it doesn't sound so scientific, you know. That's what I meant. But I do wonder what they are using today for teaching students in school already.
I can.
We also had Pascal.
I know some years ago the engineering school where I was, they were using C#. They had course on C#.
Oh, cool.
And I think they had Java also. It was quite clever. In fact, there were two old students that founded a company, and they were teaching at the school, and they were working in C#. So I'm not sure. I should ask them. They brought maybe it's those that brought that, but they could filter the students that were good and onboard them on the company after that, which was quite clever, I think.
Not bad.
Yeah, that's quite clever. A couple of years back, I spoke with my high school teacher that was teaching us informatics or computer science or whatever. I asked him what they are teaching the kids nowadays, and they are mostly teaching them web development, like JavaScript, Node.js, React, things like that, all the fancy stuff which they can get them quickly onboarded onto the...
Yeah, my daughter is at the university, and she's in second year, and she's doing something really, I mean, it's about the internet technology, so it's quite crazy because they go from networking protocol to law to communication to project management to design, 3D design, and she was making jQuery, MySQL The other day she was speaking to me like, "Hey, I've made apt-get to install Linux package." I was like, "What? What are you talking about? Come on." And she said, "Yeah, I got it." And she was talking about network protocol and SSH, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And you are not in a computer science school. Amazing.
Yeah.
But it's true that okay, for her, it's more like the web thing. But yeah, nowadays there is so much job on this that I guess the school are targeting a lot this. Huh?
I think this in informatics subject, it doesn't even need to be fully technically. Like I had an incident just before we joined this meeting. They could also just teach sensitivity, for instance, regarding today's technology, like making them aware of a few things. Like for instance, right before the meeting, someone who's maintaining a quite known platform for interviews, political interviews. He shared his home setup and made a photo with his with his phone, and I pinched and zoomed into a certain area, and they revealed their YouTube stream key there.
No way.
Yeah, and I mean, if I check this guy who belongs to that, let me see. He is in Germany. He is quite famous. Let me see. With a couple of 74,000 followers at least. Yeah. And it's also quite hard to get through that because they are not reading just incoming unknown messages, private messages. But officially there was no way, because otherwise I would give attack vector if they wouldn't read it immediately to other people to do this. And that was quite interesting. But meanwhile he already responded. But making people more sensitive to a lot of things across the board, and this is just one example. I think especially for kids, it would be quite good to get in contact with that early.
This in French school they do. They had some I would not say it's a course, but presentation. Even the police came and was making some talk about online security and bullying and things like that through internet. That is not the technical part, but yeah, I think it's important that
I also had, for instance, one case that's a year ago, also more like a political person, and she was interviewed, and they you could see in the background the password to their Skype account, and they made interviews with a couple of well-known politicians, and they had I tried contacting them a few times, right? Then finally I used that password to log in, just to see if I, through some other way, I can make them aware. And there was a list of phone numbers, and it would be that easy for me to go through that list, and maybe there was a personal phone number for one or other political person in there, right?
Most likely somebody did. You didn't, but most likely somebody did.
Yeah.
I mean, they are constantly saying how scary or dangerous the online world is today, which is completely true, and how the hackers are very sophisticated, and they do a lot of social engineering and so on and so forth. But you're not making it really hard for them, right? With things like that. I mean, people are still in a place where they do a lot of for their physical security, like doorknobs and everything, or alarm systems. But for the online presence, they are very clumsy. And and then they are quite surprised when things fall apart and when the data gets leaked and when.
I take one concrete example that I like to tell my father, which doesn't like to use his credit card online, is going to a restaurant, and at the time of paying, he's giving the card to the guy, saying, "Hey, I get to get the machine behind the bar," goes away with the card, and has all the time to write down the number, the name, and everything. Yeah. And you don't need any technology or whatsoever to do that. So.
And actually, it's a very common way of stealing that thing.
Exactly.
A lot of people are doing it in that industry.
I have a great book about this that I read years ago, which is called Kingpin. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yeah. Kingpin.
Like
funny name.
Like Kingpin from Spider-Man. You know, the bad guy in Spider-Man is called Kingpin.
Really?
Yeah.
Not a DC guy.
More of a Marvel?
I'm not a guy at all.
No, I don't know where it is. It's about all the story of in the US, the people that were stealing cards, or they got back money by buying goods, reselling those goods in eBay through different people, and behind there is a story about this guy called Kingpin, which I think it was this. It's a long time ago, and how the FBI, it was a Russian guy, or the FBI made a conference to invite him so that he comes to the US to put him in jail because they could not get him in Russia.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I think it was called Kingpin, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was from Daredevil, Kingpin. Yeah. Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hi. Yeah, it was from her. So, she knows her stuff. Not like you. I respect that.
Like I said.
Yeah, that's the book.
Yeah.
But it would be good if people would be more sensitive. Or otherwise, the person next to you tells you you need an IQ of, how much was it? 180, and at least 3 digits of the password to solve it. But idiot.
Yeah. At the end, it's a really difficult topic. I remember when I told you that I worked on this fingerprint authentication system. At that time, there were a big system called AFIS, Automated Fingerprint Identification System, used by mainly by the police. And I remember when we were discussing with a big company like NEC, and I remember one sentence, one of the guy, the top security guy from there, which was saying that most of the time you put maybe, I don't know, $1 million to build up a security system to protect something that is worth $100 or something like that. That makes total no sense, you know. Sure. And
we had a similar talk, Tudor, if I remember correctly.
Might be.
It does sound familiar, at least. And it reminds me of these Dark Diaries, or how was it called? The podcast?
Darknet Diaries, yeah.
Darknet Diaries, yeah.
Yeah, it's getting quite popular.
What is that?
Yeah, there is a podcast called Darknet Diaries.
Okay.
It's all about hacking and viruses and things like that. The guy that is hosting it is called Jack Resider, and that's it. I cannot recommend it enough. It's an awesome thing. When I started listening it at the beginning, it had like 20, 30 episodes, and I binge listened all of them because
Wow.
the quality is very, very good, very high quality of production this guy is doing, and he's doing an awesome job in researching the stories that he's doing. And he has a lot of things talking about how very big hacks happened, and going into details and interviewing people that were part of the hacks. Sometimes he interviews some of the hackers themselves using aliases or whatnot without revealing them, things like that. So it's very eye-opening on so many levels how dangerous everything is and how easy it is to get pwned. It's like that. If people with enough time and knowledge target you, you're basically
done.
The fish, you're done. You can't do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And
it's. I remember when I came to computers. So it was at the time of ZX81, but after that Commodore 64. It was not called hacker at that time, but we were doing cracking. We were cracking game software and everything, removing protection and things like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I remember only one game that I could not crack, which was called Spy versus Spy. It was an amazing game from UK, if I remember correctly. It was with some croc. I can't remember exactly what you had to do. But I can't imagine how much engineering they put in the software protection. It was amazing because all the other thing I could crack in a matter of 2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
And this one, it took weeks and I could not do it. And at that time, there were crackers, the people that were kind of spreaders, it was called, people spreading the software cracked. And this software took months to be cracked. And in the meantime, we were getting software from the US, which were in NTSC. We were cracking them, porting them to PAL. So it was on the scene market or the black market or whatsoever it was called at the time, before it was released in Europe. And for me, at that time, I really learned that you can put a lot of money into security, but if somebody wants to go against you, they will always find a way. And sometimes you have crazy security system, and it's just a phone call, and you're in.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's also this game for Game Developer Tycoon. Do you know what they did there to protect the game?
No.
If you try cracking it, you can still play, but at a certain point, your game inside the game, because you're a game developer, gets cracked, and you don't get any money. I never played it, but hearing about how they treat that was quite interesting and funny.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. One of the stories on Dark Knight Diaries was about Xbox hacking, and it was very interesting because there was this group of young kids who were playing around, and they have found a developer edition of an Xbox on a scrapyard where they were just ditching them but without destroying them. And they took it home, they plugged it in, and those developer edition Xboxes had unlimited access to the Xbox network, where they can directly download and stream beta and pre-release versions of all the games there for free, because this was and it was huge, and they started buying those developer editions like by the ton, because they found those scrapyards that they were throwing them out, and they had like hundreds of them, and they started selling them around on dark markets and things like that, and they started experimenting and creating cracks for other games and so on and so forth. It's a huge story, and it was really interesting because what they did, that from getting access to that network, they managed to steal some credentials, and with that they managed to get into other networks of video game producers like Microsoft, like Valve, like whatever big guys in the game. And what he said is, this is how this really interesting kids game that they were playing at the end turned out to be a very very scary and very dangerous thing, which was of course illegal, and they started getting knocks from CIA and FBI, and of course, because they were legitimately breaking into networks of game producers and stealing data from there. So it's straight illegal.
Damn.
Yeah. But it's fascinating. It's really, when you hear about it, you're like stunned, like, wow, what things are happening while you sleep. Yeah.
Any one of you planning to buy the either Xbox or PlayStation?
I bought the last Xbox, and I might get the new one. Depends. I don't know.
Yeah, I have the PlayStation. I heard you need Do you need a 4K TV or even 8K or something? Is 8K a thing?
I don't think so. Or maybe on the presentation device or something like that, but not on the market, I think.
Okay, yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I saw that they were advertising that could support 8K. But no, I don't think so.
I'm currently still playing Red Dead Redemption 2. Sometimes the lone, how do you say? Lone Ranger. Yeah, Lone Ranger was it?
Yeah.
Riding to the sun.
Yeah, no,
and some cowboy.
I have the old ones. I have a PlayStation 3 and an Xbox One, but I don't play them much. I've always been more of a PC gamer myself, so I got them. I'm not quite sure why I got them. Some of my friends got them, and they said, "Okay, get one so we can play together." We didn't play together too much, but
for some reason, I'm not sure if it's just me, but your microphone is cracking.
Ah, really?
Or is it just me, Laurent?
Yeah, I think it's not for me.
Okay, then.
So it might be your.
Say something.
Something.
Nuke is very awesome.
No cracking.
So it depends on what I'm saying, I guess.
Looks like, yeah.
No, then it was my headphone, yeah, or one of them. Sorry.
Yeah. So as I said, I'm more of a PC gamer now. Lately, I've been playing more Dota, things like that.
I think I've not installed a game on a PC. I did it over the weekend.
Yeah.
But I was not installing a game on a PC for maybe 15 years or so. I played only on the console.
Me too.
Mm.
Except for one, and that is some kind of. It's called Beta Flight, I think. Beta Flight. Okay. And it's to practice using a
using an actual remote for drones, but for acro drones. So those that can do a complete flip or rolls and all that, because otherwise you break them. But I only came that far to practice there. It's quite difficult.
Yeah, I heard from my daughter that she last week or 2 weeks ago she had to pass kind of an exam, because as they are on this internet thing, they are doing video also, and they have quite expensive material and drones. And before being able to use a drone outside, she had to pass kind of an exam with a 3D world on a PC, controlling with a real remote. So I guess it's this software that you're talking about.
Yeah, like a simulator kind of thing. Yeah. What pilots are doing for planes.
Ooh, okay.
Interesting.
But it's also a more specific drone, or?
That's a good question.
I mean, what kind of details? What kind of drone is it? Because usually, I mean, you should have the same rules by now about drones as me, right? Because of European law.
In the low side point of view, you mean? No, I meant to say it was an exam for learning how to control the drone.
Okay.
Not to crash a drone that costs
misunderstood.
Like 10.
I thought because today I just read about that.
I guess it's the same.
I thought it's like driver license stuff. Because no. I initially thought I have to do a driver license now for my drone that I have for the Mavic Pro 2 or 2 Pro, but I don't. It seems, because it's less. But I still need a not in person driving license, but an online license or something. And I thought it's one of those.
No. It's purely something from the school, if I understood correctly, that they can have practice before touching real material,
Okay.
And from a legal point of view, where can you fly your drone in Germany? Are you allowed to fly it only in rural areas, or you can fly it in the city somewhere?
Really depends. So, for instance, in Berlin, there's a huge area where you can't fly anything, because it's 5 kilometers around the Bundestag, the central office for the chancellor, is a no-fly zone. Otherwise, and if there is no specific political institution or something, then the maximum height is, as far as I know, 30 meters. And outside, I mean, in rural areas and all that, I think it's something along the 100. When I got my drone, I think the first thing I did was to fly up in the air like 200 meters, and it's fine. I mean, you should. What did someone say? Yeah. What did someone said recently to me? Laws and all that. It's only to help people who don't have common sense. And yeah, if you're okay, and people are flying here, and I might, I don't know, disturb birds even, then you don't fly. But if you're sure about all these things, then come on, it should be all right.
Well, it depends, because many of those laws, especially about drones, are with this newly emerged fright of privacy intervention and things like that. So everybody are scared that you are going to see what's happening in their backyards or whatever.
Yeah, I don't even fly that close to any house, so I mean, if I go flying, I go into the woods, hit some trees. No, I mean like open area between woods, something like that.
Yeah.
By the way, and I think at least I have to soon leave, and I guess you too, right?
Yeah.
So it's over 2 hours already. But I have one last question. Any of you using or have an idea about source generators for .NET 5?
I read about it, not used. It's something I was looking for because they talk about it for years now. But
was that something you were looking forward to?
Yeah, I had some idea to use it at work because we were generating some code out of some. How can I explain that? In fact, the thinking process was that we had kind of repetitive work. So the business analyst, we standardized the business analyst way of describing those repetitive work. Out of that work, I went with some ReSharper templates to generate code. And I was looking for this source generator for long for doing this. And in fact, it's funny because two or 3 weeks ago, just before you made the presentation with, I can't remember, a girl from the US, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure about the first name. Ola or something like that.
Yeah. She's also writing in chat.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I watched
with
the presentation
templates,
like 3 days after I implemented the template, the .NET template.
She should be on video here. But I'm sure she. At least I will make her know afterwards. Let me write to her.
But this is also one evolution. You know, when we were talking about this build system evolution, this source code generation, it's also something, you know, I had lots of fun with the ReSharper template with multiple files. The drawback is that you had no IntelliSense. It was text and things like that. It was a bit difficult to maintain. Yeah. And this .NET template bring you to another world where we even have a build that checks that the template compiles again the productive code now. And the source generator I had not time except to read about it.
That is I left to switch computers. She wrote me she left to switch computers. Something. Sorry, I got a message.
No problem.
Something that this room. Oh man, I thought we want to end, but now I'm having issue. Now I'm having ideas. But I will briefly say it. What you said about the templates, I remember I had the same thing with templates, with using ReSharper live templates, and that was for unit testing. And what I did is, if you have, let's say, a class, and at that time, well, nowadays it works a bit differently for me, especially in Nuke, but usually you inject everything through the constructor, and hopefully those are interfaces, right? And what I did with those live templates was to create a mock for each parameter from the constructor. Now, this is something you could do with a source generator and have it in the generated background file. You just need to make your test classes partial, and you don't have that noise to declare or the constructor parameters. You don't need to update them. That was also an issue with the live templates. So this is a very great idea, just because of you. God damn it! I'm actually writing the source generator blog post for
for JetBrains. I mean, it was not the idea to grab an idea from you. That's not why I asked,
sorry, the word is stole, not grab. Stole an idea.
It's a mighty license, so it's okay.
Okay. But yeah, I'm also trying to set up a good template for that, also using the .NET template so that you can write .NET new source generator, something along those lines, because it's not exactly easy to set up the project structure for that.
Yeah, I think the .NET template are better for that, honestly. I mean, or the example that I read about are so simple that it's mainly like you create one C# file or something like that, not a full project. Or, I mean, at least the example that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always like the C# is in a string, and yeah, how do you want to maintain this? You know.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there is other way of doing it, but I did not dig deeper into this at the moment.
Yeah, but if you want to use those, then let me know, because it would be interesting to see how it goes. But this is a very cool example about the setting up mocks, etc. I didn't think about that, because many times source generators, my immediate thought is, how can I simplify my production code with that, and not exactly how can it help writing tests a bit easier. Yeah,
I'm almost a bit careful with writing tests. Careful.
Or generator.
Okay, yeah, generate,
you wanted
or
the
easier,
explicit.
or we had several years ago, Gigi was there, this discussion about auto mocking. You delegate to the IOC creation of the thing that you don't care in your tests. When you grow your test code base at work, we have like nearly 29,500 tests for our software. And when you spread this, it's not on all the layer that we are using it, but it becomes kind of magical, for the people. So in your case, I think if you generate something, it might be easier. But this case of this magical thing is hard to understand what's going on. Then it's really hard to maintain. It's really hard to go away of it.
Sure.
It's something I'm working
on. It's really hard to debug.
It's hard to debug. And we were talking about going from RhinoMock to AutoFac. And I realized that first I wanted to, it was
Fake it easy.
Fake it easy. No, it's not this that I want to say. It's not RhinoMock. It's structure. I tried to go from structure map to the new one from the same author, which is Lamar, another IOC. No, I'm talking about the IOC. And then you discover you have this magical thing that goes around, and you discover that you go from one IOC to another, and it supports only certain depths of resolution after throwing an exception, and you cannot go further with that, because before it was magically working, and now you're in front of a wall. And this is why all this magical thing. Also, we talk about the convention and things like that. I'm always a bit balanced about this kind of things.
Yeah.
Or careful.
That's a good topic for another meeting.
Yeah.
Too much magic, but yeah, it's right. You have to find a good balance for that. Not to provide too much magic. That's true. Okay, so I guess we call it a day.
Yeah,
for a night.
Yeah. But what was really cool to have you here also with Dennis.
That's great.
Thanks especially to you two for the spontaneous join.
No worries.
Right?
Sure.
Whenever you want.
And yes, for you, Laurent, if you ever want to join again, always feel free. Usually, I'm asking. Next time, I'll try to ask a few days in advance. But you're always free to join on any topic you like.
Okay, yeah? No worries. It's a great pleasure.
Okay,
thanks for having me.
And thanks everyone for watching. Bye bye.
Bye.